throughout this season, or in more recent weeks, Pep Guardiola has instead played John Stones as a centre-back who advances into midfield, a midfielder who retreats into a centre-back. But in this game, he actually played him on the right, who would invert, overlap, or underlap. So had Pep Guardiola lost this game, the conversation very much would have been maybe he overthought it.
Yeah.
But in doing so, he won him the game. And if I progress it, look at what happens here. As City build up, John Stones keeps his position very wide.
Yeah.
And
he's free.
And he's free. Now, look at DiMarco. His man was surely going to be John Stones at some point. But at this point, he has no choice. He has to squeeze into the box. But as the ball begins to develop and John Stones becomes free, Akanji steps up from deep. And that completely changes everything. Right there. This completely changes everything, because as soon as Akanji gets the ball and takes more risk, DiMarco is on alert that, listen, there is John Stones for me to take care of. Because this pass can go this way. So he has to keep an eye on John Stones. So what does that do? He actually creates space between DiMarco and Bastoni.
Left centre back.
Yes, and Bastoni throughout the game has been very, very aggressive in stepping out and closing down. Now, there is Bernardo Silva who is lurking here. As soon as Akanji progresses the ball, as you would see, Bastoni steps out. Now, there you have it. So, you see, so he steps out. And he steps out and Bernardo Silva gets to the ball. Right? I'll try and bring it back a little bit. And then, okay. So, let me bring it back some more. Okay. So, let me... As soon as, he steps out, then there's a problem. Now, this is the problem. Because Bastoni wants to be aggressive and close down on Akanji, so Bernardo Silva makes that sweet run. But all credit to Akanji. Because the easiest pass or the safest pass surely would have been that.
Stones.
True story. In fact, 9 out of 10, most players will go for that pass.
It is the safest pass, really. Yeah. And DiMarco is angling towards, making sure that if the pass comes, he's ready to that. But this run from Bernardo Silva is interesting. So he moves into that space, and the ball is squeezed in between the two players who on the night were brilliant. But it also causes a problem, because now keep an eye on the other centre-back who has to do with Haaland, Acerbi. He has to cut across. So Acerbi cuts across, which means that he vacates the central area, which he had been all game.
Sure.
All game. Now Acerbi cuts across. He can't block the ball. And because he cuts across, this is crucial. Players now need to, because in football, when defenders shift, you need to follow up and back it up. Because Acerbi cuts across, the midfielders need to back up the central area.
And follow it, occupy that space.
And while they do that, there is this space. There is, I'm looking for the space. Okay, let me use the free hand. There is this space.
Yeah.
Because all the midfielders are backing Acerbi up. Bastoni and DiMarco, here they are. Bastoni here, DiMarco here, out of the picture. Two defenders are out of the picture.
Yeah. Three, actually, if you had Acerbi.
So Acerbi is going to do his job.
DiMarco is eating grass.
These guys can't defend anymore. They are out of the game.
Yeah.
Now Acerbi is going to, defend as he wants to close down and block the cross from Bernardo Silva. So nobody is defending this area. And that is where Rodri steps in. And Rodri finishes it up. There. Nobody making the block. And in the end, that is the goal. So Pep Guardiola deciding to play with the midfield diamond, in the end is what gave this option. Otherwise, John Stones finds himself in the middle. Bernardo Silva doesn't make this run. Bernardo Silva is very wide, and there's nobody making those runs in behind in the half spaces. And throughout this season, once they have played this system, they've destroyed teams using the half spaces. The one time that they had the opportunity to do that in the final was this, and it resulted in that goal. So yeah,
the thinking that perhaps Pep and his team were forced to do was because they came up against a team that was prepared and provisioned for every single possible scenario.
You talk about the Italians and their details, attention to detail.
Because that level of coordinated press is definitely choreographed. It's something you prepare for. So you try to synchronize the movements, and you have clear images of how the team looks like with each individual movement, so that they move in sync and then they work together. But I'll bet to differ on the goal. My thinking is that perhaps City benefited more from the absence of Kevin De Bruyne than from the position John Stones occupied.
Yeah.
Because if it's Kevin De Bruyne on the pitch, Bernardo Silva does not occupy that space. Right? If when City have got De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva and Gundogan, all three of them on the pitch, Bernardo Silva's job description is entirely different from when it's when the inventive responsibility falls to just him, and then okay, Gundogan. And I think that City may or may not like it, but since February, some of their best football has been when Kevin De Bruyne has not been on the pitch.
Yeah.
In terms of finding solutions against teams that come prepared and provisioned, and more importantly, have got the players to sustain possession when they press City and win it. The difference between what Inter did and what Man United did on Saturday was that while United were clear in their mind how to press City, be it the mid-press or whatever, and cut out their chances or the spaces that they could occupy, United were completely incompetent when it comes to when it comes to sustaining possession and trying to make sense of when they had the ball. Inter did not have that problem. I mean, we had centre-backs pinging 60-yarders to wing-backs in areas that City did not expect them to do. And I felt that Inter were simply unlucky to have lost that game, because on the balance of what they did, I think that's enough to beat most teams in the Champions League final.
That this movement, this very movement, remind anybody of anything. This ball going through and Bernardo Silva finding himself here. Does it remind anybody of a semi-final goal Bernardo Silva scored? The first goal against Real Madrid at Etihad. Very similar. Very similar. But Bernardo Silva was against that back four. Bernardo Silva could very much get into these house paces. But in this game, before this sequence, in and around the 65th minute, it was Bernardo Silva who was actually cutting in. And once he got into this pace, he never got back because John Stones had come there. It's the more reason why he stayed there. And Phil Foden's job was to be, and I thought Phil Foden, when he came on, he played well, as he said, when De Bruyne was off and Foden came, he played well. So, as I said, City have thrived playing in these central areas. That is where City have thrived in this very last part of the season. And the one time that Inter Milan couldn't deal with these scenarios or situations, the ball fell to Rodri and he smashed it home.
All right, fantastic. Sicho, thank you very much.